The only thing, but if you continue to speak, the 30% of the population who is really into the process of mass formation, you will make the hypnosis less deep in this part of the population, and you might prevent the masses from committing atrocities. So it's extremely important to continue to speak out. That's the most important thing, I think.
I want to ask a question about the how about going about speaking out, because if I heard how we got into this, there was repetition, there was ritual, there was that hypnotic sort of getting people in. So we know how hypnotists wake people back up again, right? So they bring them back out into their larger, out of the narrow focus, out again. To me, and by the way, this is my entire work in the world now, is trying to like help wake us up in time to prevent those atrocities from getting worse than they've already been. So an idea I have is to use repetition. And here's my highest thing. If we can just back it up a bit, we can say, listen, I'm no public health expert, but if I was one, my highest goal would be reducing mortality. Like my efforts either made things worse or made things better. I don't have to get involved with whether the vaccines work or people died with COVID or of COVID. Let's just back up. And I can tell you that right now in the United States, all-cause mortality is running way above even last year, and it's way above where it should be. So I can say, hey, I think we're failing at this and we should do better. That's an open question, just put it out there. But if we had multiple people actually pushing on that, like different, I know lots of other thought leaders and people who have big platforms and large followings. So if we all started saying that same thing, I'm just wondering if messaging, would that be effective if we started pushing on one scratchy sort of a unanswerable question?
Yes, that will be effective to a certain extent. I believe so. Yes, definitely.
Okay, fantastic.
But we should not immediately expect a very large effect. I think we'll be able to wake up someone here and there, but not the large portions of the population, I think. But it's extremely important. That's exactly how we have to do it, I think. Just try to talk in an as sincere and honest way. Try to continue to speak out. Try to continue to make sure that there is a dissonant voice in the public space. That's extremely important, because if you look historically, for instance, you can see that it was exactly at the moment that the opposition was silenced in public space, that there was no dissonant voice anymore in public space, that the totalitarian states started to commit their absurd atrocities. That happened in 1930 in the Soviet Union, and around 1935 in Nazi Germany. At that moment, the opposition was completely silenced, was completely erased in public space. And at that moment, the system really turned absurd. For instance, Stalin in the Soviet Union, he started to kill no matter who. In the end, he killed 50% of his own party members who usually hadn't done anything wrong. So, and that's something typical. I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Hannah Arendt, a German Jewish philosopher who wrote this wonderful book, The Origins of Totalitarianism. She says that at the moment, the opposition is radically silenced in public space. At that moment, the totalitarian state becomes a monster that devours its own children. That's exactly what she says. The totalitarian system becomes a monster that devours its own children at that exact moment. So that shows us again that something radically different from a classical dictatorship. When a classical dictator manages to silence the opposition, he usually will become more friendly, because this guy, a classical dictator, has a certain tactical awareness. He knows that at the moment he is in charge, and at the moment he really overcame all opposition. He knows that at that moment it's important for him to show the population that he will be a good leader. That's what he realizes. But in a totalitarian state, which is based on this process of sleep and hypnosis, the totalitarian leaders are not aware or do not have the brains at that moment to just know that it will be to their own disadvantage if they continue to commit atrocities. But that's exactly what they do. It even gets much worse once they really have or the only voice